It's been said that the most defining thing about any person is the picture they hold of God. Jesus knows the truth about God better than anyone, and he paints a portrait of God as the father of two very different sorts of sons. We've looked at God through the eyes of the younger son, the rebel, but what about through the eyes of the older, the careful, responsible one? The day his brother took off, the older son had to watch his father's heartbreak. And he resolved then and there that he would work twice as hard to make up for his father's absence and make his father happy. He threw himself into making the family business run with maximum efficiency. He followed his father's instructions to the letter. He worked long days, and he never took a 3-day weekend or vacation. And every morning, the older son would get up, and he would see his father walking down the road, watching for his brother. His stomach would clench a little with suppressed anger. Secretly, he wasn't sure he wanted his troublesome brother back, that things didn't run a little smoother in the household without him. And the worst part was, when he saw his father standing out there, staring longingly into the horizon, he couldn't help suspecting his father might love his younger brother more. Years pass, full of hard labor and endless trying. And one evening, the older son heads in from the fields, dirty and sweaty and exhausted, and he hears the thrum of music pumping. He rounds the corner of the yard to find half the village in the backyard, eating and dancing. He asks the neighbor what's going on, and the neighbor says, "Your brother's returned. Your father has invited the whole town to celebrate." Just then his father spots him and shouts, "Can you believe it? Your brother's back. Grab a drink, son, and join us." For the first time in his entire well-behaved life, the older son loses it. The stuff that comes pouring out of his mouth surprises even him. He rants, "I've slaved for you my entire life. I've sweated for you and bled for you. I've done everything you asked of me. And in all this time, you've never ordered me and my friends a pizza. But when the son who probably snorted your fortune up his nose comes home, you lay out a banquet before him like he's some kind of freaking visiting monarch." Maybe this guy is just your standard jerk, or maybe he's in real pain. This is not the speech of someone who's feeling secure in their identity or relationship. It's the speech of a person who spent a lifetime working and pushing himself to the brink to try to earn approval he's still not sure he has. It's clear that the older son has a picture in mind of who his father is. His father is demanding, difficult to please, unrelenting in his expectations, brutal in his judgments. His father is stingy with his affection and even stingier with his money, begrudging every moment of leisure and every mouthful of goodness. That's what comes to the older son's mind when he thinks about his father. But is any of it true? During his rant, the older son leveled one very specific accusation against his father. He says, in Jesus' words, "You've never given me so much as a goat to roast with my friends." His father's response tells us everything we need to know about the truth of the situation. "My son," he says in surprise, "you're always with me, and everything I have is yours." The older son has not seen his father clearly at all. It turns out that brutal voice that has dogged him for his entire life, demanding that he do more, always more, reminding him that he isn't good enough, that was never the voice of his father. It was his own voice he was projecting like a master ventriloquist. It wasn't his father who was withholding joy and rest and celebration. It was him who was refusing to stop, to accept the gifts, to sit down and join the feast. The accusation about that withheld party goat reveals how badly the older son has misread his situation. His name has been on his father's accounts all these years. Every one of those goats was already his. His father wouldn't begrudge his hardworking oldest son anything. He could have had a party any night he wanted. The older son's entire experience of life has been twisted by his tragic misreading of his father's character. He's worked all these years like a slave, being driven by a cruel master, when what he had was a loving father who only wanted a grown-up heir to work with and rest with and feast with and share abundance with. His father was already pleased every morning just because his oldest son showed up. The man in this story is not the only person whose life has ever been distorted by a false picture of his father. He isn't the only one who's projected his own shadows onto God. He isn't the only one who's ever looked straight past the gifts on offer. It's almost impossible to love a prodigal brother until you've seen the truth of your own status in the house. To those who've exhausted themselves trying to earn their place, to those who've never felt good enough, Jesus says simply, the Father isn't who you think he is. God has been singing over you your entire life. It's time to stop and hear the music. Sit down and taste the roasted goat. Let's hear this in Jesus' words in Luke 15, beginning in verse 25. Meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. Your brother is back, he was told, and your father has killed the fatted calf. We're celebrating because of his safe return. The older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him, but he replied, all these years I've slaved for you, and never once refused to do a single thing you told me to. And in all this time you've never given me even one young goat for a feast of my friends. Yet when this son of yours comes back after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fatted calf. His father said to him, look, dear son, you've always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, but now is found. I'm Megan Larissa Good, and this is Reading Jesus. Thanks so much for joining me for a few minutes in Luke, and I'll see you next time.